everybody. This is Laura and David here at Busy Bee Farms, and today we are taking a road trip. We are going to go about 45 minutes away from Dixon into Williamson County to visit with a Girl Scout troop. The lady who is in charge of this group is a co-worker of David's, and asked if we could come and talk about pollinators. So we're going to talk about all pollinators, but of course about honeybees and how important they are to our ecosystem. And we thought that you guys might like to come along and see how that goes.
Where the petals are, right here in the center, that's where the pollen is. And these are sunflower seeds, so they will grow sunflower seeds. But for that sunflower seed to grow, then it takes a pollinator, like a honeybee or a butterfly. They have to get on this part of the flower right here, and they have to spread the pollen from the flower to another one so that it can grow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's what it really does do that. So pollen is like this right here. It's like a kind of like flour, like you make biscuits out of. And this is pollen that I've got in this jar, and that come out of the center of that flower. And the bee, or the butterfly, that's right, it spreads the pollen from one flower to another flower. And that's how the flowers grow and get more flowers. See how that's real powdery? So the bees and the butterflies, that's right, they take this, and that's how they make the honey. The bee will take this, and it'll take it back to the hive, and they store it inside of these little holes in the hive. Those are called cells, and inside of there they'll store that pollen in there, and they make it into honey. So on this box right here, let's talk about how to be safe around this box before y'all look at it, okay? So there's two holes on the sides, one on this side and one on this side, and one in the top. It has wire over it. Don't touch the wire, okay? Because the bee can sting you through the wire. Now the fronts, you're fine, and the wood, you're fine. But the metal is sharp, and the bees can sting you through it, so don't touch that part. But we're going to come up and look at it, and I'll show you on this frame here. I'll show you that. Inside of there are frames so that we can take care of the bees. And this is one that has not been in a hive yet that I'll let you guys look at. But a frame is this wooden part that goes around, and we put this in there so the bees can start their hive. And they'll draw out the wax on it, and it'll look like that. And they'll put honey in there, and this is where they lay their eggs to have new bees, so that they can come out and keep pollinating. And you know, our food that we eat, pollinators are responsible for 92% of our food that grows. So if we didn't have bees, then we wouldn't have any food. Because without the bees to pollinate the flower, the bees didn't pollinate it, then there's no food that's going to grow, because it takes 92% of our food takes bees to make them grow. So we wouldn't have any tomatoes or any vegetables that grow. We wouldn't have any. Yes, ma'am. Jalapenos, yes. Because as they grow, they have little flowers, right? And if that flower, if the bee doesn't come and pollinate it, then it doesn't grow any fruit or vegetables. So, that's right. There's no food if we don't have pollinators. So I'm going to let you look at this, and we're gonna hand you out some things that we're gonna do like a little project. Okay? Are y'all gonna help me do a project? Yeah. Good. And what does the bee have to do? It goes into the flower and it digs around. So take your hand and dig around.
Try to dig around, find one of those pieces of
like
candy.
Your bee.
And when you get it out, sit it on your napkin.
Then set it out on your napkin.
Oh, found it.
And then dig back in there with your fingers.
Yep.
Dig around in those Cheetos and find those pieces of candy.
Dig around, get all your pieces out.
Now, when you've got all of your pieces of candy out, I want you to look at your fingers. Do you see little pieces of Cheeto on your fingers? That's just like the pollen out of the flower.
Yeah, but our hands are not big. Because they're not laid.
I know, but the bee is using his hand or her hands and her legs to go through that flower, and she's digging, and she gets the pollen just like the Cheetos on your fingers. She gets the pollen off of that flower, and then when she goes to another one, then she'll store some up and she'll take it back to the hive.
Then that little rectangle, they probably can't shape it, but they can put it in there.
So that's your candy, and you can eat it.
You can eat the Cheetos.
So does everybody see the pollen on their fingers or the Cheetos?
Yeah.
That's how the bee does when it comes to the flower. Is it digs in that flower and it pulls that pollen, and it gets down in there so that little seed can get pollinated and it can grow. Alright, so why don't you guys come up and look at the bees, and you can see how when the bee goes into the flower to get the pollen, then it flies back with the pollen back over here to the hive, and then it comes into the hive and it makes honey.
And girls, for right now, let's eat one piece of candy, and the rest of it, we will eat another piece later, and then we'll take some home. But let's not eat all of the candy right now. So, one piece of candy right now.
So you girls over here, y'all come look at the bees, okay? Y'all come right around here and y'all can see the bees. And I'll show you.
One piece of candy right now.
So these are all the bees. And this over here, this is honey. This is capped honey, which means the bees have made it into honey that we can eat, like this. The next right here, the real shiny part, that's also honey, but the moisture's not correct in it yet, and they're still processing it to make the honey better.
Is the black stuff the egg?
The glass what?
The black stuff on it?
Alright, so these, where they're dark, is that what you're talking about? So these that are dark are open cells where they're putting honey. And the ones that have the brown over it, the brown is capped brood. And what that is that's baby bees inside. And they're going to hatch out. So you see these that are white, those are new bees that are fixing to hatch. They're fixing to come out of the cell and,
Oh, I see it.
yep,
Okay, which ones are the babies?
One's trying to carry
the ones that have the brown over top of them,
Oh, yeah?
those are capped brood, which is so when a queen lays an egg, she'll stick her rear end in the cell and lay an egg, and it'll stand straight up. And in 3 days, it'll turn sideways, and then it turns into what's called a larva, and it looks like a grub worm. And it'll keep growing and growing and growing, and then they'll feed it, and then they cap it over. And when they cap it, then it's in there just to completely grow.
Okay.
And when it's went through its entire cycle, then it emerges out.
What do they feed the baby?
Well, they feed it the honey and everything. And when they are going to produce a new queen, they have what's called royal jelly, which is just concentrated honey. And they feed that egg and royal jelly and draw itself out.
And that one then becomes only that
That would be a new queen.
only gets the royal jelly. How do they determine the whole process? All these bees, how do they determine which one they want to be?
So they will pick an egg that is 3 days old to draw out a new queen. And the bees just choose. And
Some believer how
yes,
they
yes,
communicate.
yes.
And how those
I take this top off. I made it closed up so that way you guys could come up close and you could look at it, and we don't have to worry about a bee getting out and stinging anybody. Because right now they're mad at me because I took them out of their big tall hive with hundreds of thousands of other bees. And right now they're like, what are you doing to me? You've taken me from my home.
what are the walls of the cells made of?
Wax. So when they go out and they pick up pollen and stuff, they make wax, and out of their oils and stuff off of their body, they can make wax, and they can make propolis, which is like glue, and then they can make. Let's see if I can find one in here that is pollen. So when you hold it up to the light, when you hold a frame up, you can see in there. It'll kind of look like a paste inside of the cell, and it'll be golden looking. That is pollen that they've stored up that they've not turned into a liquefied honey yet. So,
And those inserts that you have that already have the hexagons on them.
the frames.
frames.
Okay, so this is a starter strip, and
How can get the same
yep, it
defined
has
shape?
like a little bit of wax on it, and what they'll do is this just gets them started. It kind of jump starts them. And what they'll do is they'll build wax out on this until it's
No, they can't. That's right.
Find it.
They are mad at him.
Organic hive.
So what
they
they do is they will draw wax. They'll start like off this.
Well,
top,
he is going
which
to
could be
take them
anything.
back.
A
He
fence
absolutely
post,
is.
fence post in your house, a rafter.
Yes.
Then you just start wherever
Yes.
they
They're in
start.
there looking for it, right?
Yes, they
Start
are.
drawing it down.
And the one thing about bees, when they're looking for their queen, they really make a roaring sound because they're flapping their wings really, really fast, and so you can hear it. Yeah, they're like making a roaring sound because they're looking for the queen. They're always wanting to take care of their queen bee.
Drone cell's just a little bit bigger.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
They know exactly.
right.
They know exactly what size it is and what they need.
So do y'all have a store and stuff where you sell your honey?
We don't. We want to work towards that, but we don't yet. We had
Queen bee in the hive,
4 or 5 hives.
and she is responsible for
We had 4 or 5,
laying
but we lost 2
all
over
the
the
eggs,
winter
so that the
because
hive
they did not want to
continues
go
grow.
up to the top to get the honey stored.
Yes, that's one that
And it was late winter that we lost them, and so that really decreased us this year to be able to actually draw the honey off the hives. We had 2 remaining good hives. Well, I'm sorry, we lost 3. And so our one good remaining hive, we did a split off of it, and so we created another hive. So we can't take any honey from them so that they have plenty for the winter.
Their abdomen back here.
Do you all eat it?
Queen bee, her abdomen is
I use it to make elderberry syrup for the winter.
she doesn't.
And then the first year that we did take off honey, we sold some, we gave to family. We would love to be able to do that.
They say like if you eat like local honey, like you get allergies.
Absolutely.
I've never done it.
Yes.
I don't. Every once in a while I get stuffed up and whatnot, but
And a honeybee
Yeah.
will not
All that
sting
stuff.
you unless you're messing with their
Yes.
comb
mind blowing how they
or
get it.
and
Oh, thank you.
then I'll take it and I'll zip it up because when you get in their house, they're really angry and they think you're there to hurt them, so they will sting you to try to get you to go away. Because bears, they will get into the hive to try to eat the honey. So the bees, they will attack the bears and sting them in their face and eyes to make the bear go away. This is my bee suit. And I zip it up around through here, and this keeps the bees from getting inside and stinging me. And it's hot. It's really hot. So I don't wear it all the time. But I zip it up like this, and then that flapper keeps them like that, and then I put my big old tall gloves on.
They're dirty, right?
They are dirty, and that's where I've been handling the bees, and their wax and their glue, which is called propolis, gets stuck on my fingers. It's like glue. You want to touch it? Feel how it's sticky?
I'll
Touch it,
try
Bubba.
to. No way.
You want to touch it and feel it?
No way. Oh, no.
You want to feel that right there?
It's hard.
That's called propolis, and what that is that's where the bees make glue. This is a hive tool, and when I'm inside the hive, this is what I use to move stuff around, so I don't grab them and squish them.
No, those are flies.
So this is how I keep the bees from getting me and stinging me. And when I'm working in the hive, they'll be up here flying around my face trying to get to me because they want me to leave their hive alone. But that's how we work the bees without getting stung. is another tool that Olivia has, and what this is a tool that we use to pick the frames up out of the hive. You see how they're in here like this? So this is in there just like this. And then the next one is right beside of it, just like this. So when you open up the hive, this is what you see at the top. And the bees go in that little crack and they go down because there's 2 of these inside of here. Okay, these are the frames. So we use this tool to grab hold of it and pick it up and slide it up out so that we can look at it just like this from the side.
Yeah, so you just put that on this.
That's right, this right here. We just take that pincher and we pinch that piece of wood and pull it out. Pull it up. Yeah. And then that way we can look at it and we can find our queen bee and make sure she's doing all right. And we can find that there's new babies in there so that the hive can keep growing.
And that the bees can keep growing.
That's right. Because we have to take care of them.
Yeah, so bees can. Bees fly out when you get the hive.
Yes. When we take the top off, the bees really come alive because we're messing with their house. And they start flying around and they're like, you better get away from my house.
One got stuck in there. What if there's no babies? I have a
question. If there's no babies, then the hive dies.
Oh.
So that's why we have to open it up to look at it to make sure that there are things that start attacking the bees. There's hive beetles, and there's varroa mites, which are little bitty pests that get on the back of the bees. They look like a tick. And we have to make sure that there's none of those things in there that we can try to help the bees. Yeah. So let's go back over again. What?
David, we have one question.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have so many questions.
Okay.
Bear with me.
Okay.
Queen.
Yes, ma'am.
There's only one.
There's only
Are
one.
the rest of those bees boys?
No, ma'am. So in a beehive, these are all women.
All women.
All women.
Okay.
Now, in a beehive, there are men. However, the men do not have the pollen sacs on their legs. They do not go out and collect pollen, and they do not do any work in the hive.
Lazy.
Their sole job in life is if the queen says we're out of room and we have to move, we're going to swarm. So if the hive is going to swarm, ma'am,
Yes.
The protectors?
the men, no, the women are the guard bees
Of the queen.
Oh, I thought the boys
of
were.
the queen. The men do not have, if I remember correctly, they do not have a stinger. Their sole job is to mate with a virgin queen. When a new queen is hatched out and she takes flight out of the hive, their job is to fly to her, mate with her, and they fall dead.
So when they need a new hive, a new queen will hatch, they follow her out.
Well, she will fly out one time in her life, and that is for her mating flight. When she flies out, the new virgin queen, when she flies out, all the drones, or the men, they take out. And their job is to mate with her, and as soon as they do, they die.
What determines between like a female bee who's already in the hive and a queen bee?
So a queen bee is hatched.
Okay.
So these cells are worker bees.
Okay.
They are even flush with the frame, and they are just capped over. So like the white ones you see up here that are just barely starting to emerge, when they hatch, those are going to be worker bees. They go through a process. When they first are born, they can't fly, so their very first job is to go back and clean the cell so the queen can lay a new egg.
Okay.
So they will tend to the frames, and they will feed the new eggs before they're capped. Once they've been fed, and they are growing, then they'll get capped over, and then it's just an incubation process in there where that egg goes to a larva, turns sideways like a grub worm looking, and it'll curl up and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it will grow into a bee. And then when it's ready to hatch, it will emerge from the cell, and it starts the process over.
Out of all the eggs, queen lays. Will she lay a queen?
Alright, so a queen is made from an egg that she lays, but the worker bees choose which one is going to be in a queen cell, so it will start like this. No,
Sounds so cool.
a queen, when she's going to be drawn out, when she's 3 days old after being laid, a 3-day-old egg, the workers choose, we're going to make a new queen. And whether the old queen's not laying good, she's getting old, or they want to make a new hive, they're going to overthrow the queen. And they make that choice, and they start feeding that egg royal jelly.
Oh, now you're getting somewhere.
So when they feed her royal jelly, they'll constantly feed her. And then they start drawing her cell out, and then it turns vertically and goes down because she is much bigger. She can't hatch in a normal cell. So they'll draw a queen cell that comes out and then turns and goes down, and it'll be about an inch long.
That's amazing.
And the former queen will be in the hive
The former queen will be in the hive.
until the new queen.
They will kill her if they're going to supersede her, or if they're going to split off and just swarm. Then one of the two is going to leave the hive. There's only one queen in the hive. And so when I was moving this frame in, I pushed a couple bees, and that is a undertaker bee. And its job is to remove any dead bees.
Her mating flight, how many eggs can she lay from that, and over what duration of time?
She will only mate the one time. She'll mate with 15 to 20 drones, and then when she comes back to the hive, that's the only mate that she'll ever do.
Right, so
So
how many eggs can she?
correct? A queen bee will usually live between 3 and 5 years, and she'll lay hundreds of thousands of eggs
From one mating
with 15 to 20.
at one time.
Well, in one mating flight, which
In a flight,
yes, that's why when the
15
drones,
gentlemen are coming
yes,
after her.
yes,
And then she's got a gut full.
yes, and she chooses based off of the cell if she lays a fertilized egg or an unfertilized egg. She can pick and choose whether she lays a boy bee or a female, a worker.
That is bizarre.
Okay, here, my son reminded me I had this. So this is a worker. The drones are big fat guys with great big eyes, and the queen has the long abdomen.
Look at this one.
Yeah.
He's really carrying this bee away.
So that's another bee that got squished, and their bees take care of their hive. They will drag out the dead and No, they just take them outside to.
I got a question. What's this one doing? Or they're like knee deep in here.
Okay, so they could be feeding. They could be turning the pollen into honey. They could be cleaning a cell.
This and then this one
Where
right
it's head
here.
first?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
the one next to that's all white. What's in there?
All right, so the white one is a bee that
That's a
is
bee.
being hatched.
No
There's
kidding.
no queen in there?
No, I took that out. I got out of church and I went straight home and pulled these 2 frames out of a big hive that I have,
Look at how deep
just
this
so
one's
that
in
the
there.
girls could see them.
Look at this little tushy.
Bees and all these species like
Look at this. There's a little tushy hanging out right here.
I don't know if they're the only one, but I do know that the queen chooses if it's going to be a boy or a girl, and that's based off of the cell that she gets to. So like I was telling you, the drone cells will be bigger. So if she goes to stick her rear end into a cell and it's a big cell, she knows that's a drone and they're getting ready to move. So she lays an unfertilized egg, which is going to be a male.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I have a friend who's like talking to them and stuff. Like they do better like when you talk to them and you actually. Is it true?
Well,
Did you talk to
if you stay calm with them and you talking keeps you calm.
because they
Be-
otherwise.
Bees can't hear, but they feel vibration. So by you staying calm and they can smell the adrenaline coming and the pheromones coming off of you, that's how they know when the queen's in there and when she's not. Stick your ear up to it. You hear the roaring? So the roaring is because they don't have a queen.
And like, are they calling out to her, or they just don't know what to?
No, they're fanning because they're trying to fan her pheromones. They smell her. When she's there, they're calm because the hive's in good condition, everything's working. When she's not there, they go into fanning and chaos because they're going, we either have to draw a new queen or somebody's fine. Is she here or not?
Is that
So
why
they
it's-
fan.
Such a reintroduction process to add a queen again, because my friend has a couple beehives and her queen died, and then they had to reintroduce a new one.
So to add a new queen, you have to take the new queen. The best way to do it is to put her in the hive,
Okay.
let them get used to her smell.
Like in a cage? There's queen cages?
cage. And then in
that
a
a
few
pinched
days
thing?
you go
A
out
pinched
there
piece
and
of
It can, there's a clip, but there's also little boxes with that type of wire on top right there over it, so they can still smell her and kind of look at her and touch her and all that and get used to her, because sometimes they will reject the queen. A hive can reject a queen, or they can accept her, and so that's why you want her to stay
right
in
now
there.
they're fanning and they're roaring. The roaring that you hear is the sound of them fanning, and they are trying to find her pheromone. If they don't, then they will take an egg and draw out a queen. So,
Like how long?
Listen, your queen.
Right.
Will they do that for a few days or?
I don't know for sure how long they'll wait. I know that it takes usually, I think, 18 days for a queen cell to grow a queen. I think it is. So
Because it's a full 30-day process.
yes, and a bee only lives 28 days.
What?
So
For the queen, it's 3 to 5.
3 to 5 years.
What is the hatching cycle of a new larva?
That was what I was saying. I think on a regular worker bee it's 14 days. On a queen bee it's 18.
And is that just because she lives longer because they fed her so much more with that royal jelly, and then
That
she
and
has
she's
just,
being pampered in.
she's not having to work at all.
Right.
Okay.
Well, she is working. I mean,
right, but not, no, she's
she's
working
not.
on egg.
She's not flying out picking up
Right.
pollen and coming back.
Okay.
So worker bees wear themselves out because they can fly up to 3 miles from the hive to gather pollen and nectar and bring it back to the hive. To make the wax to make the structure, and 2 to make the honey. So this is honey, and this is honey they've not capped yet. So this is ready to eat. This
Can you eat
is
it raw like that?
yes. You can take it right now and just take your finger and eat it.
But this is their food.
Yes.
They're feeding the babies?
Yes.
Yeah, if you put your ear,
Okay, but all these like pork ones, these are babies.
Yes. That's
And what
great.
are these open ones?
Alright, so the open ones are ready for the queen to lay a new egg, and if they got shiny in it, they put honey in it.
ear just close to it. You can put it here and it won't
They
do
put
that.
honey in it
Don't
to
touch
feed
it.
it.
Put your ear close
To feed, well, to stores. They're storing up for the winter. So that's what the egg looks like. It just looks like a little grain of rice.
But Dad,
And then this is what, as it opens up to a larva, it kind of looks like that drug line. And then it'll cap it off. So you go from an egg to brood to a larva and then to the cap. And then this one is where it's starting to, either they're finishing it off or it's going to emerge.
Okay.
And then that's what the queen cell looks like.
Oh, that's interesting. This is cool. I don't think the kids thought it was as cool, but I'm like, oh, we are spinners.
90% of our food is because of them pollinating, and they're doing it for them. It's a byproduct that we get food out of. And in the U.S., it's $10 billion worth of economy comes from bees. And across the world, it's $3 trillion is what the USDA has established the importance of bees. Yeah, you just gotta listen for a second. So there are 2 frames in here, and they'll get, all the way down and through. And
These bees are a little nervous though, right? They don't know how to move.
yes, they're a little upset with me right now because I took them from their hive. And see how this one's fanning? Right here, it's sticking its butt up in the air and its wings are
You
going.
went 3 miles down the road.
It's fanning to
You
try
let the bees go. Would they come back?
So David, talk about this.
So if you say you're only 2 or 3 miles from the big house, you open this thing up, would they be able to?
So when a bee leaves the hive, they'll go out on the porch and they do an orientation flight. And they'll start out and they'll just kind of circle and they're orientating themselves to the land markers. Power lines, tree lines, things like that is how they orient themselves and where the hive is. So if you take them away, they can find their way back. It's not guaranteed that they will, but if you're going to move a hive from your home to another property that you have, it either needs to be beyond that 3-mile flight path, or you run the chance they're going back home, because home's supposed to be over there.
But there's a better chance of them getting back home if they flew from home 3
Yes.
miles rather than you taking them, dropping them off.
Yes, because they're tracking,
And it's mostly sight.
Yes, they go off of like if you're gonna try to catch a swarm, they say try to catch them in a tree line at the edge of a field, or where a power line runs, because they run those straight lines. Power lines and tree lines. Those are major landmarks that they use to orientate themselves to where they are.
Yeah, because when they take off from that hive, you can see them just go straight out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they just,
And once they kind of know where they are, they'll come out and You'll see them, they'll come out and they just take up just like that.
That bee, the bee movie, that's still one of my all-time favorites. I like that. We'll watch it with the kids.
Yeah.
What's the powder in there?
They make
They move the pollen from flower to flower so that our food continues to grow. Right? That's right. Just like you were digging in here, you saw how it got on your fingers, right? That's how the bee does the pollen. Do y'all want to taste honey? Yes? Let's see if Miss Sissy has some extra sticks.
We have one. Look in a
Popsicle
box.
sticks.
There's a bunch. All I need, go look in a box.
Okay to use these popsicle sticks?
But we went. Thank you.
All right. Here you
Hey,
go.
ladies. So our snack today and one boy. Our snack today. So our brownies are doing they're doing research on
Hold your
ants.
stick out.
So our snack today is called ants on a stick. So your raisins represent your ants, your apple is your stick, and your peanut butter is their food. So you get apples on a stick. Or raisins, ants on a stick, sorry. It's been a long day. Okay, go back to eating. You will in a second. Give us just a minute.
And this is honey that came from my beehives last year.
Dad.
All right. Go.
So good. I like raisins, but I don't
Absolutely.
All right, hold your stick out.
Well, I get some of the honey on it.
Okay, Sissy, I'm
Uh-oh.
This is fresh honey.
How long have we
This
been
is
doing
out
this?
of my hive from last year.
3 years?
Good.
I love honey.
At least. Yeah.
We have one request for apples and raisins.
All right, everybody. So we finished up with the Girl Scouts and the talk and activities there with them, and it was a really wonderful, good time to be able to show our bees and explain how they are very, very important little bitty creatures in this ecosystem that we need them. Very important. So we are back here at home, and David is getting ready to put the 2 frames that we had in our observation hive back into their home. And so that is what he's doing now. He's taking off a couple of the boxes on their hive, and then he is going to be getting the 2 frames out to put back in their home. So there's the observation hive that you saw in our video earlier with the girls. And this was something that David made. One, using the jig to cut out the box. He got the jig from his mom, and so he was able to make the box. And then we cut out everything for plexiglass to fit over it. The vent holes on the side, so they had the air ventilation. And it turned out really, really well. It turned out really, really well. The kids seemed to love it. The parents did too. And now these bees are ready to go back in their home. I'm not suited up, so that's why I'm not super close over there. The one frame in, now one more frame. And there we go. Those little girl honeybees are back in their homes. Happy to be, I'm sure, because they definitely were roaring looking for their queen and their friends. And that's a box full of honey, right, David?
Yes. It's heavy. We got 2 full boxes, medium boxes, completely full of honey.
This was a hive that we made a split off of earlier this year. So we've not really taken any honey from them, but they sure have made a lot of honey this year. Just trying to get all those little bees out of that observation hive so that we can take that back with us and use it for future events if we should be asked again. That was a really fun activity, and any time to share about bees and pollinators is wonderful.
Try to teach the importance of the bees and just really how fragile our ecosystem is, how our food depends on these bees and other pollinators.
It's okay. It all works. It's a top. Okay.
So guys, that's gonna wrap up our video for today. That's how we done today. I hope that maybe you learned something about honeybees and how important they are to our ecosystem. They are a $10 billion economy or affect $10 billion worth of agricultural, 92% of our food. Without these honeybees would not be pollinated and would not grow. So that's how important they are. $10 billion in the U.S. economy, $3 trillion across the globe. That's how important they are. Be careful with those pesticides. 7 dust kills these bees. Pesticides kill these bees that we so desperately need. So be careful out there, guys. Thank you for joining us. If you've not done so before, please hit that subscribe button. Help us to continue to grow our channel. We thank you for watching. Take care and God bless.